Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a video covering the 3 tanks in Cold War that are currently available for a discounted gold price or for free XP. That is the Wz-111-66, which is the Eastern Alliance Era 1 Premium Heavy Tank, which is currently available for 144,500 free XP or 7,225 gold. The MBT-70 Era 3 Western Alliance Heavy Tank, which is 11,900 gold or 238,000 free XP, or the M60AX, which is a medium tank in Era 3 for the Western Alliance as well, which is the exact same price as the MBT-70. Now, if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, we're going to start with the Wz-111-66. Now, if you've seen all the videos previous that we've done so far covering these sales, what we're going to do is show you the commander and equipment setup for the tanks, and then go through the statistics while they're fully equipped, and then show you a replay in the vehicle, so you just get a bit of a feel for the tank. So we're going to start off with the Wz-111-66, since it is the Era 1 Premium. And is it a decent pickup? Well, it's not the best tank. Again, it's one of those tanks that is like the T-55A, where it's one of the originals, right? It's an original tank that came out with the original sort of philosophy in balancing for Era 1. And then a lot of newer, shinier tanks have come out that are just generally better than it. Does it still make good credits? Well, yeah. Does it still hit like a truck? Yeah. But the armour on it, the turret front is not too bad, but the general armour on the Wz-111-66 doesn't particularly hold up too well. And in terms of its mobility, it is very, very sluggish compared to a lot of the mobility that is flying around in Era 1. So, what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, in terms of equipment, I run the advanced loader, gun stabilizer, and vents. Vents to try and get the best DPM I can possibly get out of it, while also making the accuracy/aim time slightly better, just basically improving the all-round tank. Gun stabilizer to make the accuracy during rotation and movement as good as possible, so that the aim circle doesn't bloom out too badly, which with this derpy 122mm gun, it does bloom out a fair bit, but not horrifically. That's because of the gun stabilizer. And the advanced loader to make the best out of the DPM, as always in a tank like this. And in terms of the commander, if we get the crew there, we've got Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Deadeye, Rapid Aim, Trap Mechanic. Now, Trap Mechanic, because we are a bit of a brawly heavy tank, so it's nice to be able to get our tracks back on quicker, especially if we've burnt the repair kit. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse better, because the turret traverse on this tank is a little bit slow, so it's nice to make that quicker. Deadeye for the memes, so that I can increase my chance of doing module damage by 6%, but you could quite easily get rid of that and run clutch braking to make the track traverse quicker, or run something like supply conservation to get your consumables back quicker, or run armor angling to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank by 5%. It's really down to you and how you feel comfortable playing the vehicle. All 3 gun perks, because yeah, this gun is derpy, so you really want to help it out if you humanly can do. And then these 3 perks you're going to take on every single tank in Cold War. And then in terms of the modules on the WZ-111, it's got the engine bay at the back there, very much like most of the Soviet vehicles. It's very, very similar to a lot of them in that regard, or the Soviet-esque vehicles is the way I put it. That's where the ammo racks are. Trust me, big caliber guns enter the tank in that midsection below the turret. Your head pops off, so be very careful of that, as they are rather large ammo racks and very, very easy to hit. And what you generally tend to find with this vehicle, because of the placement of the ammo racks, and they're not the strongest in the universe, is as soon as you get a shot through the drive wheels, you get ammo racked. So be very careful of that with the WZ. And that's where the crew sits for the WZ-111. Let's have a look at the statistics of the WZ-111. So as you can see, we've got a 50 km/h top speed with a 15 km/h reverse speed, a 600 horsepower engine, which is 13.48 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do get towards 50, but generally you go between 40 to 45 in this vehicle. If something that you could do is run the powertrain instead of vents, so you just get that little extra oomph in the engine and get above 14 horsepower per ton ratio. And you will feel a little bit of a boost to the engine power and to the general mobility of the vehicle doing that. But generally, it is a little bit sluggish, but it is a heavy tank at the end of the day. 12% internal fire chance is on the low end of fire chances, and while it is a Soviet-esque vehicle, I haven't been set on fire too much in the WZ-111-66, which is quite nice. I've been ammo-racked more than I've been set on fire, so that's something to bear in mind. We've got 28 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which is not that quick, honestly, but it's also not that slow. It could be worse, but you do feel it sluggishness in terms of its mobility a little bit because of that hull traverse, with the turret rotation speed being 27.41 degrees a second, which again is slower than the tracks and is very slow, which is why we run the rapid aim to make that turret traverse just that bit better. Ground resistances aren't that great on soft, but the other two are pretty decent. So on soft terrain, yeah, the tank can feel even more sluggish, but generally it's not too bad. 481 metres of view range is pretty decent. Again, spots for itself quite well. The 0.61 accuracy during rotation is pretty good, but 2.09 accuracy during movement is not that great, especially since we're doing all we can to help it, which is why you really want to help it with the gun stabilizer and all the gun perks, because, yeah, you feel it otherwise. 5 degrees of gun depression is low. Obviously, it's not great, and it means you are very awkward on a ridgeline, and it can just be awkward playing this tank depending on where you put it. So again, it's all about knowing which kind of ridgelines you can use 5 degrees of gun depression on, and how to maneuver your vehicle to be able to get the gun depression to shoot the enemy vehicles. You've got a 2.44 second aim time, which means the aim circle does bloom out a fair bit, and then it takes a wee while to aim in this tank. It could be worse, but it also could be better. It's not the best aim time in the universe. 0.33 accuracy at 100 meters is also fairly derpy. As 0.33 is actually pretty accurate, what I mean is, if you don't help the tank, this gun is very derpy. 0.33 is pretty decently accurate, but you still feel the slight derpiness in this gun, and it can be a bit of a pain for that. 7.82 second reload is 2.9k DPM, which isn't the best. Well, it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty good, if we're honest. But it could be better compared to a lot of other tanks that have way higher DPM. But 2.9, yeah, it's, you know, it's one of those. It's not, you don't sit there going, it's taking forever to reload, right? But it's one of those that if you get into a knife fight with quite a few other tanks in the era, you start to go, ooh, I'm feeling that DPM, right? 248 penetration on the standard APCR, with 320 penetration on the heat rounds, and 61 penetration on the HE rounds, 390 alpha on the standard and heat, and then 530 on the HE, which can be quite nice, but at the same time, don't use it that often unless it's against a 4005. 930 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APCR is slow. It's below average in terms of being below that 1000 meters a second velocity mark, meaning you do have to give a good amount of lead to hit your shots in this tank. 820 meters a second shell velocity on the heat is also very poor. The shells start to loop, and it really has to give a lot of lead to hit the targets, and especially some of the distances you do fire at in Cold War, yeah, it's a bit of a pain having that sort of velocity, and it's even slower if you load the HE. In terms of the silver bonus, it's got a 160% silver bonus, which is pretty nice for the Wz-111-66, and like I say, for an Era 1 tank, it does make pretty decent silver, especially seeing as you don't really have to fire premium, because 248 pen is enough to go through most tanks you're going to face. But yeah, that's the Wz-111. Like I say, in terms of the turret armour, it's pretty nice, as long as they don't hit the cupolas, but your hull armour doesn't really stand up for much, and generally for me, it's been ammo-racked quite a lot, which can be a bit of pain. Is it worth the pickup? Well, for 144,500 free XP, it's not too bad to pick up a good silver earner in Era 1, but there's probably other tanks that would be more suited to being picked up, and especially if you save your free XP for maybe a better tank to come along in the future for these free XP sales, because these free XP sales are fantastic. They're way better than the silver ones, because you can manufacture your own discount, because naturally you end up with free XP sitting around, like I've got 132,000 currently sitting around, because I don't really use it. Even when I'm grinding up tech trees, I try not to use it. And then when these kinds of sales come along, you can go, oh, I'll pick that up. And if I need to convert an extra 20,000 free XP, it's only going to cost me like 500,000 gold, whatever it is, you know, which is always lovely. But yeah, that's the Wz-111. What I'm going to do now is send you into the replay where you can see this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you. As always, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are with the Wz-111 in the replay. And we are on this map, which is Serene... I was about to call it South Coast. I always do that. South Coast hasn't been in the game for God knows how long. But it's Serene Coast. And on Serene Coast, what I want to do in this tank is go to a place where I can use the turret armour and then just try and farm up. And a good position to do that is C1. Because using the True Vision, you should be able to spot some of the things that do camp back at around G2 area, F2 area. And you can just try and farm away. And especially if someone spots for you down there as well, it can be a free farm. Now, I don't really want to push too aggressively down the one line in this tank, and in any tank in Era 1, really. And that's because the lurking 4005s like to say hi, and you don't want 183mm of pain. No way, Jose. Absolutely not. So, we start the game with a nice shot there into the M103's side. That was a Hesh round flying in, and I'm like, where is he? There he is! And we put a shot into the 4005. Just always watching for those movements, and there we can see the 4005 trying to back off. We're always going to keep launching the shells at the 4005 if we can, because every bit of HP drained off a 4005 is always a good time. So we've put him down to 807 hit points, and we're just watching to see if he's still there. So I'm looking, I can't really see him, but in fact, he was still there. But the TVP-88 getting spotted made me go, okay, I'm just going to put a free, easy shot into that guy. Put another shot into the side of the TVP-88, which is always going to be very easy to pen because, well, that tank has no armor. We see the RU coming in behind my teammates, so we put a shot straight through the back end there. That was a really nice shot as well, snapped him. And the reload, like I say, the reload's not terrible on this tank at 7.7 seconds. It's just one of those where it could be better. And you are seeing the aim time there as we aimed in on the T95E3 at the back. 4005 gives us a free shot into his turrets. We put that into there. Again, it's always good to get rid of the 183s if you can. And you got to be careful because there might be another one, because there is two in this game alive at the minute. So we've got to be very, very careful of the other one lurking around somewhere. So we go for the cupola shot into the E3, and you are seeing that 0.33 accuracy is pretty decent. If you're fully aimed, it will most of the time hit exactly where you're shooting, as we finish off the TVP-88. It's just occasionally, because of the shell velocity, especially when firing at tanks in the distance, it can be a bit of a pain. That poor IS-3 in front of us took a shell for 1211. That was definitely a 4005 slapping a shell into that guy. And that's just the threat that could be lurking at the back in Era 1. We've just got to be really careful to not take that hit. So we try and slap a shot into the T95E3 there. Sadly, it went low, and we ended up missing the shot. But he still sat sideways on, so we put a shot into him, putting him on to 446. He's not quite a one-shot at this point. The RU drives out. Good night, Mr. RU. Again, that's a pat on the back. That's quite nice, a shot on an RU that's doing about 100 kilometers an hour. We're up to 5.5k damage, and we're just looking for another tank to hit. So we get hit there with a heat round. It bounces. T34 drives out sideways on. Whole side of the tank. You kidding me, says Vic? Yeah. It goes high, hits the turret side, and doesn't pen the T34. The next shot hits the upper plate, but at an extreme angle, and ricochets. So the T34, sadly, gets away with that push with what was left of his hit points. There's currently 6 tanks left on the enemy team, and we know there's a 4005 back there. It's just about where. And it was there. It was there. And we got to kill him. We got a payback. We killed him. But all of our hit points, blink of an eye, gone. Death. Sad times. So it's great to finish off the 4005. So I decide, okay, I know where that T95E3 was. I'm going to try and poke into a position to be able to shoot the T34, get rid of him, or try and find the T95E3. So the T34 gets shut down by the M103A1, and I'm going to try and find that T95E3 with the true vision. He's right there, but the gun derps, and we end up hitting the dead wreck, not the E3. Now we're reloaded, we poke out to try and get the finishing shot onto him. And yeah, the armor doesn't mean much on the Wz-111. Unfortunately, if you overexpose a little bit too much of the hull. And he finishes off. And we finish the game with 3 kills, 5.9k damage, 1508 base XP, 166,000 credits, the second class, the high caliber, the sniper, 1508 base XP. Pretty decent game there for the Wz-111. Really showed off the gun and what it can do when it's stationary, and even shooting at moving targets. And then the armor just going, nah. But yeah, that was the Wz-111, which you can get for free XP. So, we're on to the next tank in the list, and that is the M60AX, which is a tank that I am genuinely not the biggest fan of, and that's because it's just not that great. The armour on it doesn't really bounce me much in Era 3. In terms of all the spaced armour slapped all over it, I thought ATGMs might just get absorbed by it, but generally, unless they hit that gun mantlet, ATGMs fly through it. The mobility is pretty decent at 72 kilometers an hour, but honestly, in Era 3, what isn't? The gun handling is absolutely superb on this vehicle. You don't really have to focus on it with the crew skills that much. But generally, what isn't in Era 3, right? And then the DPM's pretty good, which is nice as well. But again, a lot of tanks have that in Era 3. And your penetration at 494 on the standard 583 is also just a bit low, which means you struggle to pen quite a few vehicles in Era 3, and they don't struggle to pen you. And if an MBT sits there and goes, "You're going to die," you go, "Okay, I'm going to die then." You know, that's the way it is. Like, you just accept death, bend over, kiss your ass goodbye, right? That's just the way it goes for this tank. It is available for 238,000 free XP, but yeah, I'm just not a fan of this tank whatsoever. But there we go. So in terms of a crew and equipment, I run the advanced loader, vents, and the advanced armor. Advanced armor mixed with armor angling to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank by 10%, which can be very nice. It can save you a fair few hit points, give you an extra shot or two, and that's why I do it. Because this tank will get penned all the time, and it needs to fire a lot to rack up the damage that a lot of other MBTs do get in this era. So I just try and reduce the amount of damage coming in if I can. Vents to make the best out of the DPM. Just get that DPM as good as humanly possible, and that's why we run the advanced loader as well, especially with food as well. We're just truly making the DPM as good as possible, because that is one of the things that we want to do with this tank. And then in terms of a commander, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Rapid Aim, Clutch Braking, Track Mechanic, Run and Gun, Armor Angling, Deadeye. Deadeye for the memes to increase my chance of doing module damage by 6%, so that I can at least try and set people on fire or ammo-rack them more often with this tank. The Armor Angling to reduce the amount of damage coming to the tank by 5%, combined with the Advanced Armor, decreases it by 10%. And Run and Gun to make the best out of the accuracy draw and movement, so that I'm always firing on the move or firing while stationary, and I'm just never stopping firing, and I'm always accurate. The Track Mechanic to get the tracks back on quicker if they get blown off, because they do get blown off all the time, and especially if I've already burnt the repair kit, it's nice to be able to get that track back on way quicker. Clutch Braking to make the tracks traverse way quicker, again, adding to the mobility of the tank and the feel of the mobility of the tank. And the Rapid Aim to make that turret traverse better, especially since we're helping the tracks feel quicker. And then these three perks you can run on every single tank in Cold War, in general. Again, there's plenty of things you could possibly take on this tank. If you're getting annoyed at the accuracy, which you won't, because the gun is superbly accurate, you could run Steady Aim. If you wanted to run Supply Conservation to get your consumables back faster, and especially if you run Smoke, that can be quite handy. So you could run that instead. Reduce the chance of getting your crew knocked out by 20% with pain tolerance. It's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle, realistically. I just run it to make the gun, the DPM, and just try and help it out and give it every little advantage I humanly can do in this vehicle. So in terms of the modules, that's where the engine block is. Typical M60 layout for an engine block. I haven't really been set on fire that much, even though I've got a 15% internal fire chance, but it is in the middle of the fire chances. That's where the ammo racks sit, and I have been ammo racked when I've been shot like through that sort of angle, so be careful of that. And that's where the crews sit on the M60AX. In terms of the statistics, we've got a 72 km/h top speed with a 27 km/h reverse speed. Now, if you weren't bothered about reducing the advanced armor, you could run traction system, and you would get up to 79 km/h, and you would hit it, because you've got a 21.25 horsepower per ton ratio. So that's something you could do, but to be honest, I felt like I was still getting outrun by most of the other MBTs anyway, so I felt like I just wanted to maximize everything else. 48.13 degrees, we'll get there in the end, 48.13 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means this tank does turn very quickly on its tracks, with a 52.33 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is faster than the tracks, and that is quite nice. In terms of those, they make this tank feel very, very nimble. 620 meters of view range means you'll spot off yourself quite nicely in Era 3. 0.45 accuracy during rotation is pretty fantastic, especially mixed with 0.58 accuracy during movement, which is, as a pair, absolutely phenomenal, and your aim circle basically doesn't move. It's pretty much always aimed in, and the little tiny bit it blooms out, you got a 1.53 second aim time, which means you can aim in super duper quickly, and you are ready to go instantly. And with a 0.15 accuracy as well, That is phenomenal accuracy at 100 meters, and you basically never miss, unless there's a little bit of RNG in there, or it's mostly your bad aim, or my bad aim. I aim badly all the time. If you're watching the stream the other day, you'd have seen that with the M60 Rise, sorry. We've got 9 degrees of gun depression, which means you're flexible just like every other M60 on a ridgeline, which is nice. A 4.12 second reload, which is near 7k DPM, which again is one of the key strengths of the vehicle, which is why I help it out as much as humanly possible, so that I can just maximize that, because that is one of the real only true strengths of this tank. 494 meters of penetration on the APFS DS is just not that great in Era 3. 583 meters of penetration on the premium APFS DS. It's pretty decent though, if that was the standard round, but that's the premium round, which means that it's still pretty decent, but it still struggles to pen a lot of tanks in Era 3, which can be frustrating. And 270 millimeters of penetration on the HE round for 590 damage. I do take a couple of rounds just for the Maloes running around, but generally I don't use it that often. 1493 meters of second shell velocity on the standard APFS DS with 1505 on the premium is nice velocity, and you don't have to give too much lead unless you're firing at truly extreme ranges, which is pretty good. And you've got 155% silver bonuses, which means this tank does make good credits, but generally, yeah, I don't feel it's the best tank in Era 3 whatsoever, and it's just not the most fun to play. It takes a hell of a lot to get the most out of it. And you just generally, it's like the Type 59D in a little bit of way. Although, actually, you probably feel a little bit better in this tank than Type 59D. But where you just feel like outclassed. You just feel outclassed by same level or higher MBTs. And you go, oh, right, that's just the way it is. But that's the M60AX. As always, what I'm going to do is send you into the replay where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, and just see if it's a bit of you. As always, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the M60AX, and we're on Kaunas. And on Kaunas Encounter, what I want to try and do in a tank that's mobile like the M60AX, or any tank really in Era 3, or any tank in general on an encounter battle on this map, is get to the position at D5. Because the position at D5, you can get yourself safe, and you can keep poking out and shoot anyone that dares to push along the AB line and just cut off that threat as they do it. So, that little ridgeline in front of us is perfect. We see the Macarver, we shoot him in the side, and we bounce. But we shoot him in the side that time, we track and pen him, so great. I decided to go for that front drive wheel to try and keep him tracked, and sadly we didn't pen it. We track him again, but we don't pen it, and we're not getting any of the tracking. We tracked and penned him there. And we only got 397 tracking assist. Excuse me, game. Please give me my assistance. Sad times, so that meant we actually missed out on 2 or 3 penetrations there of that Macarver. But realistically, we also kept him pinned so our team could finish him off. So it was getting rid of a tank in the end, just that we didn't get any of the benefit from it, which is a sad time. We managed to get a shot into the Asario as it poked out. There's a Chieftain Mark 11, looking for that side shot into the side of the turret, 450 straight through. And like I say, this gun is superb. DPM on this tank is superb. It's just a shame that it just, when you get to the length and breadth of it, every other MBT has the same sort of strengths. So you sit there going, yeah, I'm struggling to pen you. You're not struggling to pen me, but you're also doing me in quite as easily. Take the Asario, for example. Most people will have the Asario because, you know, we got it in one of the season passes. That tank is bonkers, right? It's OP, if we're honest. It's OP. And it has way better armor than we do. And it's saying it's a medium tank as well, right? Has way better armor than we do. Its gun handling is just as good. Its DPM is actually way better. It's insane, to be fair. The penetration's great on it. And it's got higher alpha. So, you just look at that and go, do you need the M60AX? No, probably not. To be honest, the M60AX is one of those that feels like it's basically an Era 2 in Era 3. You know, it's an M60, but it's just got upgraded armor packages. And even them for Era 3, it doesn't really feel like it works out that well. Again, you do occasionally bounce shots in the M60AX. But when you really need it and you go, I need you to bounce, it just won't. Which is a sad time. But we're up to 2.3k damage with 1,023 assistance. A tank is trying to machine gun everyone from the back, so we actually fired at it where the machine gun bullets were coming from. And sadly, We bounce off what is a light tank. We see the Asario, though, who's now distracted. And this is the kind of situation where an M60AX can be nice, where you have that tank that you can just sit there and go, he's not going to be shooting back at us, we'll just keep farming away. So the Challenger 2 is currently staring at us. We've loaded Premium, which is 583mm of penetration, so that we can go through the lower plate of that Challenger 2, because with our standard pen, we'll never go through it. We end up seeing the Armada A3, which we put a shot nicely on the move straight through that guy, tracking him in place. Go for the RBRT into the Challenger 2 as we're crossing the open, which hits his front and bounces, which we're not really going to complain about because it's going to happen realistically. But we're chasing after the Marder. It's like, Mr. Marder, come here, my son. He thinks we're just going to come charging around that corner, misses his ATGM. I went for the tracking shot there, but sadly didn't get it. We get another shot RBRT in, but he ends up tracking us in place. We see the other Marder in the open there. He thankfully misses us with the ATGM. That was good reaction timing, because the moment with that other Marder had died, and I realised, oh poo, I'm detected again. There's something with possibly ATGMs looking at me. I don't want it. I looked at the only place where I thought it could be, and it was there. It was the Marder. And thankfully, like I say, the reaction is to go, oh poo, get the tracks on, drive, drive, drive. Managed to, you know, get away with it. So we see the Object 292, put a shot through his upper plate, because it's a fairly easy tank pen, and then we go straight through the Challenger 2's lower plate, which was really flat there. If we're firing at that tank on flat, and we're on a flat shooting at it, a flat surface, naturally we're both on flat, because of the angle of the Challenger 2's lower plate, we're not really going to pen it with the standard APF SDS. But he was angling it so that that plate was completely flat for me, so my standard pen actually went through it. We're up to 7.6k damage with 1,023 assistance. We're just looking for shots into the Leclerc T4, which is a very dangerous tank because his gun handling is just about as good as we have. The DPM on that tank is pretty good, and quite frankly, it hits like a truck with penetration that will not worry about us whatsoever. So we have to be careful about facing a Leclerc T4. Also, his armour is a bit troll for us to pen with our penetration, which again, something we just got to be careful of. So he drives out, we fire the shot, but we reacted that slight bit too late there, and we ended up missing the shot for the Leclerc T4. We're just being extremely careful, though, as well, because I don't want to overextend and then just die, because the thing is with Era 3, naturally, is that you can die so quickly, because the DPM is so high, the accuracy of tanks are generally so ridiculous, that if you push out for a split second, your death is very, very quick. And especially facing guns like a 292 or a Leclerc T4 that hit like a truck, have no problem penning you, and have high DPM as well as that, which is... Oh, my lord! That was a brown trousers moment! We poked out, saw the ATGM and went, oh, goodness gracious me! Thankfully, though, it hit the ridge line right in front of us. But yeah, you end up facing something like a 292 or like the Leclerc T4, and you sit there going, well, I'm just going to struggle, because they have gun handling that is really nice. They have armour that is also very, very nice. They have penetration, which just laughs at my armour. Yeah, sure, I have DPM, but like the Leclerc T4 has 5.5k DPM, which is way lower than mine, generally. But when it's hitting like a truck and I'm struggling to pen him, and he's not struggling to pen me, that's where it can be royal pain. But obviously with the 292, he has 1,000 less DPM than me as well. But his gun will never struggle to pen me. I won't really struggle to pen him. But yeah, it's just, when you end up in that sort of fair fight one-on-one with that kind of tank, it just doesn't tend to go too well. We're up to 8.6k damage with 1,023 assistance, and we're chasing after that light tank. We know where he was. I'm just trying to watch the crossing to see if I could see him crossing, but I don't see it. We fire the shot on the move towards the A3, and sadly, we ended up missing that shot. It just went a little bit high, and he ATGM'd us no problem on the move. That is such a sad time, but there we go. Chasing after that Marder A3, and the question is, where are we going to keep up with him? Probably not, because he is super duper quick and we only go at 72 kilometers an hour. But we are going to try and just cut him off as he exits the town. But the Challenger 2 finishes off the Marder A3, and we finished the game with still a pretty decent total there for the M60AX. Victory, 3 kills, 8.6k damage, 1,023 assistance. We made 437,000 credits with a silver booster, and 1670 base XP. And yeah, that's the M60AX, which, like I say, is a tank that I feel is extremely underwhelming, and is a tank that I myself really just don't enjoy or get on with. And I feel like I'd just rather play any other MBT in the era, but I might be being harsh to the M60AX. I don't know about you guys. I just don't find it as an appealing tank in general. But yeah, that's the M60AX. So now we're on to the MBT-70, a tank that I've always enjoyed in Era 3 for the meme factor, because this 152mm gun is memey. This tank is generally memey. It doesn't really have any armor, but it goes as forwards as fast as it goes backwards, which is hilarious. It's got a very, very nice HE round and an ATGM that is pretty nice for surprise attacks where you can just slap a big ATGM into someone, especially for those entry bits into a fight. But the MBT-70 isn't the best tank in the universe, but it can be pretty memey and just enjoyable for that. I don't generally fire the AP in this tank because the AP is a little bit low in terms of the penetration at 400. It just struggles to pen tanks in Era 3 generally, and it used to rely on the fact that it could overmatch quite a lot of plates that Era 3 tanks had, but since the overmatch mechanics changed, it's not quite that as good anymore, which can just be a bit frustrating. Plates that you used to pen, you just don't. So you lob the 170 pen HE rounds, because you always splash for 3 to 4 to 500, generally, because you've got 1100 alpha on them, and then you get random pens with them as well, which is absolutely beautiful, and can be very, very nice for the MBT-70. So what do I run in terms of recruit and equipment? Well, in terms of the equipment, I run the advanced loader to get the best out of the reload, gun stabilizer to make sure that this gun can actually hit its shots, which, spoiler, it can be pretty derpy, which can be pretty frustrating, so it's nice to keep the aim circle bloom down as low as possible. And the traction system to get that top speed of 70 kilometers an hour, so that we can be at least somewhat nippy in the tank. And then in terms of the crew, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Clutch Braking, Rapid Aim, and Track Mechanic. Pretty generic crew for an MBT in Cold War. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse better so that it can be pretty quick at turning its turret, getting its gun locked onto target. Clutch Braking to make sure that I turn on a sixpence pretty quickly and add to the nimbleness of the mobility. All 3 gun perks, because this gun can be derpy, so I want to help it out as much as humanly possible. And these 3 perks, because you're going to run that on every single tank in Cold War. You could drop Clutch Braking if you wanted to and run Deadeye, and that's because you've got a 20mm autocannon on this vehicle as a multi-weapon system, which can be pretty handy to use. So you might want to run Deadeye to increase your chance of doing module damage with those rounds, as you're getting multiple rounds penning targets very, very quickly, increasing your chance of setting people on fire. It's down to you realistically and how you want to play the vehicle, but that's just how I run it. And then in terms of the modules, that's where the engine blocks are on the MBT-70. Again, if you get shot in the back end, you're going to get set on fire, which can be pretty frustrating. In terms of the ammo, that is where the ammo blocks are on the tank, and that's where the crew sit in the MBT-70. So in terms of the statistics of the vehicle, we've got a 70.4 km/h top speed with a 70.4 km/h reverse speed with 1,474 horsepower engine, which is 27.86 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you will hit those top speeds very, very easily. The ground resistances don't really hold the tank back whatsoever. 47.96 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is very, very quick, which is why I also say you might think about dropping clutch braking, because 43.79 degrees a second on the turret rotation means the turret does turn slower than the tracks. So it's something to bear in mind with that. If you're trying to look left but turning right, your turret will move with the tank, which can be a bit frustrating. You've got 570 meters of view range, which is decent for a tank in Era 3. 0.57 accuracy during rotation is very nice, with 0.96 accuracy during movement, and that's because we've helped the gun out as much as possible with the crew skills and with the gun stabilizer, which means the aim circle does bloom out, but not much at all. And with the aim time of 2.3, that is a bit long for Era 3, but generally you don't feel it that much because the aim circle isn't that badly out. 0.24 is accurate, but generally this gun loves hitting the floor, which can be frustrating. A lot of that down to the shell velocity of the HE. You've got 9 degrees of gun depression, which means, again, you're very flexible on a ridgeline, which is great for the tank. 7.66 second reload is 6.1k DPM, even higher, by the way, with HE, naturally, which can be pretty nice, but you've got to pen those HE rounds, and a lot of the time you are splashing. You've got 400mm of penetration on the standard APFS DS, 170mm of penetration on the premium HE, and 450mm of penetration on the ATGM. Now, the ATGM is good for when you catch people out by surprise and you get those opening salvos off at the start of a game, but 450 pen is quite low, so you really have to catch people out in the side or rear to use it, and it has the same damage at 1100 as the premium HE, which has 170mm of penetration, and like I say, that round can be pretty useful, and it will give you a lot of random pens as well, which can be pretty hilarious. 400mm of penetration is low on that APFS DS, and it does struggle to pen quite a lot of tanks in the game, which is why I just fire the HE or the ATGMs. You do have 1420 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APFS DS, which is very nice for that 780 alpha. 754 meters a second shell velocity on the premium HE is very slow. You've got to give a lot of lead to hit that shell, and that's part of what makes this gun feel pretty derpy in the MBT-70. 320 meters a second shell velocity on the ATGM. It's pretty quick, actually, for an ATGM, which is quite nice. And you've got 100 meter arming distance as well on that ATGM. And the autocannon has a 13.49 second reload, which is very accurate at 0.23, and it fires in 0.06 second on the intro clip, so it fires very, very fast, and in the clip you've got 75 shells, so you can dish out quite a bit of damage. And you have 90mm of penetration, which means, again, you're going to be penning mostly rears, but also the weakly armoured sides of quite a few other tanks. And the tank has a 155% silver bonus, which, if you fire purely HE, you will be eating into those profits, but it still does make good amount of credits to the MBT-70. And it is a tank that is just enjoyable. I'd say it's just a meme tank. It's a tank that you do enjoy playing. You don't want to take it ever so seriously, because that's where it will start to get frustrating. But if you just like to run around lobbing HE rounds, fire the ATGMs, you'll make good credits doing it, and you can meme around with going backwards as fast as you can go forwards. Just bear in mind that you don't really have any armour. You do have auto ricochet angles on the turret, which can occasionally get you a lovely ricochet, but generally don't rely on it. But yeah, that's the MBT-70. What I'm going to do now is send you into the final replay where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, see if it's a bit of you, you know? So as always, everybody, I will see you in the replays. So here we go, MBT-70 on Desful. Again, a tank that I do thoroughly enjoy playing because it's a meme. The ATGMs, as you're going to see, can be useful for those early engagement shots, and for when you basically get to your starter position, you're a good distance away from people, and you can just launch them in and get that guaranteed 1100 damage into a tank that wasn't really suspecting it. But because of the arming distance, it's a bit questionable to load them off the bat here on Desful, because we are going to go to the middle area. And especially if they push aggressively to this middle area, it can be a bit of a troublesome time for us in the MBT-74 and that ATGM, because we do have the 100 meter arming distance, which means that, yeah, we have to be outside of 100 meters to be able to pen that shot. So you've got to be very, very careful of where and when you use those ATGMs. So you can see I'm just watching around the corner to see if anything's going to come into the middle, and then I'm pushing aggressively into a spot where I can possibly find an easy target to get this ATGM off at. We get shot by... it wasn't the Chieftain Mark 11 that shot us, it was something else that we couldn't see. My driving's terrible, but we get away with it. And yeah, we got set on fire with the first shot that we took. So we lost 1300 hit points in the first second, which is really unfortunate, but there we go. We've got the HE in now. We don't actually care about whether we can pen the Asario. We can just sling the HE at this guy. So we put a shell in for 300. He comes over. We try and put a shot at him. That was a really weird instance. We somehow hit the destructible cover there, but okay. The Asario again, we aim the HE in 331. We get lucky there that we didn't get penned, we only got tracked, but we take another hit, and we've got to be careful because those guys at the back are currently looking at us. Look to just lob a shell at the K1, and we hit him for 251. So yeah, it's one of those things, like if I fire AP at a K1 there, I don't pen a K1. So you are racking up damage repeatedly with the HE without really having to think about where you're shooting people. And then when you get those opportunities where you can just drive up and go, hello, friend, and lob a HE round into someone's ass, and you get that really high 1100 damage shell, it can be so, so satisfying. So we see the Leopard 2, and Mr. Leopard 2, I could pen you if I hit the right spot. We aim for it, but we only get 390, and then we use the autocannon, and this is where you can just get so much damage. But the Macavers decided that they don't like me. I try and hit a shot RBRT on the move, and they are just absolutely charging after us. And we're using what is a big strength of the MBT-70 here. The ability to reverse backwards as fast as we can go forwards. Aim underneath the Macaver straight away to be able to track him instantly in front of our team. Get very lucky that he bounces, but we'll take it. We see the MX-40 in the distance, fully aim the shot, fire it. Okay. Thanks, gun. RNG is a beautiful thing. And that's what I'm saying about this gun. This gun is really quite accurate. But it just loves missing. It just loves missing. And it can be so irritating at times, which is, again, a bit of pain when you're firing the APFSDS and you're struggling to pen things, and the shots just don't go where you're aiming either. It can be really frustrating. Oh, AMX-40, we could pen that if we hit it in the right spot. But RNG said, you know what? You've got the whole ass of an AMX-40. Oh, there we go. You got the whole ass of an AMX-40. I'm just going to deviate the shot to the right and do track damage only. But 1100 into the rear of that AMX-40 is so satisfying with the HE. Sadly, that shot missed on the K1. But I'm going for the tracking shot here on the Leopard so I could try and pin him in the open, hoping that people might shoot him. K1 driving in the open. But I've got to stay hidden from the Leopard, otherwise I'm going to die. So I'm just trying to feather the shot, but I can't find it. I know the Leopard is still looking at us. And at this point, I just don't want to die. We're at 5.9k damage with 929 assistance. We're having a pretty decent game for the MBT-70. And you can see with the true vision, just over the top there, that Leopard is currently watching over that ridgeline. He fires, though, so that gives me the opportunity to poke out, shoot him. Excuse me. Fully aimed on the Leopard there, and it drops low into the ridgeline, where I wasn't really aiming. Like I said, this gun is a super duper troll. It likes missing. You got to get used to the frustration of the MBT-70's gun at times. When it works, it is a thing of beauty, and it is an absolute meme master. But it doesn't like working that often, which can be really frustrating. But even if you have a game like this, you can still have nice credit income. Even firing full premium, because yes, the HE is a premium round, so you got to be careful of that. So there are Sarios coming up. Again, I know there was a tank behind him, and he was going to kill me if he shot me. So I aimed straight for the track, which pinned him in place, and he got finished off. Because you got to be thinking of that. I could have just shot him just to try and get damage, but it wasn't going to go well. I tracked him, and that way he didn't end up getting us. So we see the Weasel Toe in the open. I just guessed where they possibly were going to be. We Neo his ATGM. We used the autocannon to absolutely shred him. We set him on fire as well. And he popped smoke, getting away from us. That's what I'm talking about with the HE, though. It does love to fly wide. It's just like, oh, come on. But the autocannon can really come in clutch, because we absolutely shredded that Weasel at that distance, getting us another 1,000 odd damage in total as well, which is lovely. But with the light tank and the TD, and where our team were, my thought instantly was, those tanks might be camping up in the corner at C2, or pushing down the BC line. So I immediately changed to have a look to see if I could see them up there, and we did get a bit lucky, and we saw that Weasel, and it was just about that sort of watching and keeping an eye on what is going on in the map at all times. Where our team was, it was just sort of a trial of error of going, well, if our team's here and here and here, there's only really one spot they can be, and we spotted them out. So we found the Weasel, free aim the HE shot. Good night, Mr. Weasel Toe. And we finished the game with a pretty decent total for the MBT-70 there. Finished with the victory. 1 kill, 7,900 damage, 1,038 assistance, 363,000 credits with the Confederate and the second class. Decent game for the MBT-70, but that's the MBT-70. Again, you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of that tank, what it's all about. Derpiness of the gun can be a pain, but The meme master of the HE is a beauty at times. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you very much for everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!